Okay, this is Tim Denman, and I work for Defense Acquisition University. I'm the Cybersecurity Learning Director. I also had the opportunity, the very distinct privilege to work for the Zero Trust Portfolio Management Office on a rotational assignment for a year. And so I'm really excited to speak about Zero Trust. And we've worked well with the Cloud Security Alliance. I really appreciate what you guys are doing, and I appreciate this opportunity. The first thing I want to talk about as we look into Zero Trust is that this is not just a DoD issue or a United States issue. This is a worldwide issue that we need to start looking at better ways to obviously we've been doing this for years and years and years, but Zero Trust, as we look at it right now, needs to be implemented across the world. I've been in NATO recently, been at NATO headquarters and have been working with them. Bottom line is, as the slides here say, the values, the security, the interest of the international community, the U.S. and its allies is being undermined. The international order is being undermined by cyber criminals, where they be from China or Russia or wherever they may be. They may be somewhere in the United States, a cell, but there has to be something that's changing. I'm not going to go over this in detail, but ransomware threats are going way up. We have the war between Ukraine and Russia has caused a lot of state-sponsored attacks, amateur attacks, all those type of things are going on. We're seeing attacks to our critical infrastructure. The war in Israel is even upping that. We're seeing security flaws. We're seeing information stealing with malware. Really, the attack is on data. And I want you to notice what's going on from the DoD standpoint. Mr. Sherman, the DoD CIO, says the rapid growth of these offensive threats emphasizes the need for the DoD to adapt and significantly improve our deterrent strategies and cybersecurity implementations. So I want to share some studies, and I want to go back a little bit on this. I was cyber when cyber wasn't cool. I've been going through this for many, many years, and we keep on doing a lot of great stuff, but there's a message that's coming out loud and clear over and over again. And that message has been that we're improving, but our enemies, because they only need to find one vulnerability, and they have the weapons, the automated weapons to do it. Our enemies are improving at an even greater rate than we are. And so, as I say this, based on the DOT&E report, and you go back and look for the last 25 years, and you see what I'm talking about, there was a ray of hope in the last one. 49 different cyber assessments, and what did they find? They found out that when Zero Trust principles were promulgated, what happened? Well, positive outcomes. We saw even a little bit makes a difference. And so we're seeing that over and again. We need well-executed, well-trained cyber defenders. But as we do this, we've got to understand that there's many different ways to do this, but Zero Trust is really the one thing that helps us to change that trajectory of our enemies improving faster than we are. As we look at the modern enterprise, whatever that may be, as I say here, hackers are improving faster than defenders. Okta says, hey, Zero Trust is the only way to properly secure a modern hybrid multi-cloud enterprise. The only way. It doesn't mean that all those other things go away, but Zero Trust is going to be the only way to really get those final improvements in. So I wanted to share with you as we go forward, here's a little bit of what the DoD is doing. First of all, you've got to define zero trust, and you got to understand what it is and understand what it isn't. Okay. The first thing that you see that's happened, though, this is not from the DoD level, but from the U.S. government, the federal government level back in 2021, an order came out, executive order on improving the nation's cybersecurity. It came out and it said incremental improvements are not going to work. The federal government has to make bold changes and significant investments in order to defend the vital institutions that underpin the American way of life. I will tell you from the DoD strategy standpoint and from the U.S. federal government standpoint, zero trust is that bold strategy, that bold improvement that we're talking about, that significant investment. And so what is it? First of all, it's not, and this is really important because there's some people out there that are going to sell you some really good tools, and they're going to say, and I've heard it said, I've seen it said, we're the only zero trust provider, or we can do stuff that nobody else can do. I just want to tell you guys to be very careful with those. And the reason I say that, it's not one single capability or device that you're going to buy. It's the whole framework. It's an approach. It's a methodology. And it starts with cultural change. It starts with understanding that our enemies are already in our networks and we have to do something about it. So as we look at this, understand first and foremost that zero trust is not one product. So I say all this, and many of you guys are heading very, very strongly in this direction. So as I look at this, I understand that a lot of you guys are moving forward, and that's great. As you look here, back in 2021, we only had 1 in 4 organizations that had zero trust in place. By 2022, that was more than half of the organizations. And then now we're talking about 61%. So many organizations, including many of you guys, have already started that zero trust journey. But I want you to understand that journey is a journey and not a single solution. It is a journey that we're going to learn, we're going to grow as we go forward. This is straight from John Kinderbach, and no, he's speaking, and he's I really admire what he's done. And you've probably seen this before, but the big thing is that we have spent a lot of time trying to protect that perimeter. And if you see that perimeter in these slides is right at the very edge. And that's really, in this case, it's kind of the theater, as John would say. What we're really looking at is what are those extremely important assets that we're trying to protect. In the case of this motorcade, it's the president, and I believe this was President Obama and his daughters and wife. Those were the crown jewels, so to speak. And everybody had to understand that was the main thing they were protecting. Not that those other areas didn't need to be protected, but the number one thing that we're focused in on was that smaller protect surface. It's a lot easier to understand that than it is to understand, the whole landscape or the whole city or even the whole state, which is kind of what we do sometimes within zero trust. Without zero trust, as I say that. But as we look at this, zero trust is data-centric. And what does that mean? Well, first of all, we've got to understand where the data is, what the data is that's important, and who should have access to that data. And as we do that, we can start really understanding what our protect surface is and what are the things that we really need to be protecting. Again, I'm not going to go over this in detail. Mr. Kinderbach has done a great job of laying out a 5-step model for Zero Trust to implement. First of all, it starts with understanding and defining that protect surface. Then from there, we start mapping how the transactions are flowing. Then we go to there to building an architecture. The policy comes in, and then from there, we're able to monitor and maintain that network. This is an ongoing process, one that we have to be very, very aware of, one we have to really work hard on to make sure that we continue to look through those things. The protect surface may change. The really important data, those types of information, it may change. We have to keep on going back in that cycle as we understand this. What are some challenges? And I think this is really, really useful to understand. There are issues with latency. And I got to tell you, in many cases, not in every case, but many cases, it's because we've not fully architected things as well as we need to do. Budget is definitely a concern. Maybe it's getting a little bit less as you see this chart. How about our security strategy? How well we're putting that out? What about our manpower and resources? Actually, that's kind of a positive thing. It seems to that area has seemed to drop. So as we look at this, we understand there's a lot of challenges out there. We got to go into it with both eyes open and understand, what our specific environment is and understand what our challenges might be. So one of the things that the DoD has established, and I just want to lay this out there for you guys to know, here's the strategy where Zero Trust is going within the Department of Defense. I think every organization, commercial, anywhere else, needs to be looking towards Zero Trust. If you are working with the Department of Defense, this strategy is something that you will be asked to follow as we go forward in this. The Portfolio Management Office, which I had the pleasure of working for, was established as the central point of focus to coordinate those activities. They're doing pilots. They're doing a lot of things. That started in January of 2022. So one of the things that they've developed, and we'll talk about, is the strategy for Zero Trust. And the overall vision of that is the whole DoD will be secured by a fully implemented department-wide Zero Trust cybersecurity framework. Now, you might want to ask, wow, you could be sharing this with people that shouldn't be hearing this, and none of this is classified. It's all public releasable information. But the thing is, attackers are going to have to understand, that as we develop Zero Trust, we're not saying that here's the beauty of the whole strategy. We're not saying that we're going to keep every attacker out. What we're trying to do is limit, we're trying to detect that attacker, trying to limit their activity as quickly as humanly possible. And again, the first thing it starts with is that cultural adopting that mindset that says, hey, I've already been breached. And guess what? It's a pretty easy mindset to understand because in most cases, that's already happened. As we look on further, we're trying to basically secure our information systems and defend them. Understanding that technology, as it accelerates, is going to play a great role in this. I've heard people ask about AI and some of those type of things. Zero Trust can actually use AI to get better and to improve. And again, you hear it over and over again. Zero Trust is a journey. It's something that there's a goal, a specific goal within the DoD, but we're going to continue over and over again to implement and get better as this process goes along. So this is what the DoD lays out. 7 different pillars is the framework to implement Zero Trust. So the first thing we understand is, what are we trying to protect? If you see at the very center of those pillars is data. And we're going to, there's a reason for that. Again, Zero Trust is a data-centric strategy. But as we go forward, we're going to be looking at ways to protect the data, ways to protect the user and devices, applications and workloads, ways to go forward with this. So what happens? We have 7 different capabilities. 7 different pillars. And then from there, you see some pillars have more capabilities than others. But in the DoD strategy, and this is, the other organizations are looking into some of these things. Again, it's going to be different for different organizations. But in the DoD strategy, there are 45 different capabilities. From there, we go a little bit deeper, and I'm not going to get into this. Fortunately, I think y'all, for the sake of time, I'm not going to get deeply into this. But the next part of that is we're going to take those capabilities and we're going to look at activities. So the first thing that we're looking about is the user pillar. You see 4 capabilities listed out here: the user inventory and the conditional user access. From that user access, we have specific technologies, specific things that need to be put in place. We call them activities that the DoD is going to put into place to make sure that we get to where we want to go. This is the thing understood. Organizations within the DoD are looking to implement Zero Trust target level within 5 years. Some are going to get beyond that. That's great. There's an advanced level on that we talk about. But target level activities we're trying to introduce and trying to get out there within 5 years. Those target level activities, and again, and I'm not going to go this deeply, but just kind of leave it at this. So 7 pillars, 45 capabilities, and a total of 152 activities extend from that. So does an organization have to have every one of those activities? Actually, what we're looking at as the target level is to have 91 of those 152 activities. Things are going to change. We're going to do a lot of different things going forward, but as we see it right now, 91 of 152 activities you're going to have before you can say you have a target level of Zero Trust. And that's the goal for all DoD organizations within 5 years. So as we look at this, the most important thing is cultural adoption. We have to have we talked about it. It's a mindset. It's a framework. It's a new paradigm that's going to guide the way we think, the way we integrate things, the way we use technology. And so the goal from the DoD is that all DoD personnel are aware, understand, commit to, and trained to embrace a Zero Trust mindset. And that culture supports putting those technologies into place in their environments. I love this quote by Laszlo Bock: "Culture eats strategy for breakfast." I got to tell you, I think we have some of an amazing strategy out there. Is it perfect? No, but it has been well thought through from some people a lot smarter than me, and they have done some really, really good things with that strategy. But if we don't change the culture, it's going to be overtaken. The strategy is going to be overtaken. We're going to have people resisting it in every sense. And I got to tell you, as you look, sometimes those cyber people, I told you I've been in cyber for a long time. Some of those cyber people may be the biggest resistance. And we can't do that. We've got to understand that this direction of understanding that there's a threat, that there's a hostile environment, and we've already been breached, and not really giving implicit trust to anyone is what's going to get us to where we need to be. So what are we doing to try and change the culture from DAU standpoint? One of the best things we've done, and John Kindervach spoke with us, was a virtual symposium. We did that last year. We're going to go and do this again this coming April 2 and 3. We're also doing online courses, a load of online courses, actually 4 of them, 4 one-hour courses that are going to be required for all DoD and DoD affiliated personnel. And that's going to be a big amount of information out there. Again, just 1 hour that we're asking everybody to take one of those 4 courses. There's an implementer course. There's so people that are a little bit higher level. There's an awareness course. There's a course for Zero Trust executives, for executives to understand about Zero Trust. And there's just an overall strategy and guidance course. What does this all mean to us? So that's one of the things we're doing. We're doing those online courses. Those are going to be going farther and farther along. We're doing webinars on a monthly basis. The symposium is heading out. We're doing a lot of virtual stuff, but we're also doing a lot of in-person type activities between practitioner workshops and lead engineering workshops, those type things. If you want to look at the training details, you see where you can go there. So how do I summarize Zero Trust? And really kind of as we look at it, it's kind of we look back and what has already been said as we look at this journey. First of all, the reality is that the enemy is already in our networks. And in that situation, our data is being exfiltrated. Our data is being compromised. Our data is being discovered. So if we understand that, that's the first step in this journey. And again, could there possibly in 50 years somebody come up with a better way to do things? Absolutely. But right now, this is not something brand new. It's been out there for 10 years, and as technology has advanced, as things have gone more and more, the traditional security models are not really working. The perimeter security, where we try to keep people out, is not working. People are getting in, and unfortunately, they're roaming freely. What Zero Trust does is going to try and keep people from getting in, but when they do get in, it's going to keep them from roaming freely. When you hear a lot about, I talked about it a little bit earlier, ransomware attacks. As you look at that, as you look at ransomware, it's very easy for people to get in. And when they do, if they can take control of your entire network or system or whatever it may be, they've got access to the crown jewels. And we're finding people extorting blackmailing for a whole lot of money. And in this case, what happens with Zero Trust, it doesn't say we're going to keep everybody out. But when they get in, we're going to do everything in our power to catch them much more quickly, to recover. We talk about resilience, but recover and keep them from moving along. So if you have a smaller surface for them to move into, there's a smaller surface for them to destroy or for them to hold hostages, so to speak. So as we look at that, we really don't have a choice. We've got to go forward in implementing Zero Trust. we have to coordinate those activities. And that's why I'm speaking here. I'm not speaking here to say this is how the DoD does it. This is exactly how you have to do it if you're not part of the DoD. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is everybody that goes to Zero Trust is gonna be able to help in this case, because we're interacting with everyone in some way. And so there's a computer term that talks about low-hanging fruit. And to be honest, those organizations that don't have Zero Trust are going to be the low-hanging fruit. They're going to be the ones that get attacked. And so what we have to do is look to do more and more of that. And again, is not going to stop everything. And you ask yourselves, well, what happens when everybody gets Zero Trust? Well, the big thing is that attackers are not going to stop. I doubt that they're going to stop. That for some reason, when COVID came along and the quarantines and stuff like that for COVID, attackers didn't feel sorry for us and say we're going to stop. They actually increased the attacks. So they're not going to stop when we all get Zero Trust. But what's going to happen is we're going to find them more quickly. We're going to look for ways to root them out much more quickly and return our systems to where they need to be. Again, the big thing I want to tell you, and this is where I want to end this, we don't have a single application that's going to give us Zero Trust. It's not a single technology. It's not a single vendor. We've got some great vendors out there that are doing some amazing things, many of which are very involved with Cloud Security Alliance. But I want to tell you, it's not going to be accomplished by only one. It's a very much, and this is why I want to bring this out, it's very much a lot of teamwork is going to have to go into this. And as we look at this, the number one thing that we got to say over and over again is cultural change is critical. Last thing I want to kind of give an illustration on that is, let's say you look at an airport, and it's very easy let's just take a small airport where there's only 4 or 5 access points to get into the gates, to get into the area where the flights are going to be. And those access points, you have checking, you have people being checked constantly, and that you have your luggage being inspected. You have all those type of things that go on at those access points. That's kind of the way we've been. So you would say that's kind of perimeter defense. But what happens in this case? So we've kind of trusted in an airport. We kind of trust that people have gone through those checkpoints, and so when they get into the airport, they're able to move freely around fairly easily. They can go to restaurants. They can go wherever they need to go to businesses, wherever they need to go within that airport, and their credentials don't have to be checked. The problem is when you take it from a computer and a Zero Trust perspective is we can't limit 4 or 5 different access points. Attackers are finding millions upon millions of access points. And they're able to, unfortunately though, we treat them even differently than we do when they get inside an airport. Without Zero Trust, oftentimes, we do everything that we can to stop them. We can't, because there are millions and millions of access points. But once they get in, we let them roam freely. And even to the point sometimes of not even requiring your ticket for when they go on the plane, if I would talk about it on a virtual sense. What we're saying is, because we know there are millions of access points, every place they go beyond that initial check-in, we're going to have to be verified. They're going to have to be verified that they're to go to the next level. We're going to have to ask them, why are you going here? What is your need to know in these situations? And as we do that, that is a real different mindset because, you think about that and from a physical security standpoint, we're going to be thinking a lot differently if we realize that a big percentage of those people, or maybe even a very small percentage, but a very vocal percentage of the people that are in our networks, in our systems, are able to roam and are not there for benevolent, but they're there for malevolent interest. And that's where cultural change has got to come into play. We've got to understand, we've got to be on the alert, we've got to be vigilant. The cyber defenders have a lot of work that they can do, and they're going to be doing a lot of work in implementing this. But I truly believe, and it's been demonstrated to me over and over and over again, that zero trust is the first step. Again, there may be many others, but this journey that we talk about in zero trust is something that we have to take, and we have to take it now. We have to take it across the DoD, and we have to take it across the world. If we don't, we're going to pay. We're going to have issues. Our systems, our networks are going to be that low-hanging fruit that's going to be compromised. We've already seen those compromises over and over again. But if you see your organization being compromised in a greater extent than anybody else, it will definitely make a believer out of you. And I hope and pray that you take this journey with us in some way as we go forward.